everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my Ultimate University Guide live stream series. Again, I'm so sorry for being late. A comment just came in saying, am I early? No, you were on time. It's me who was late. But yeah, I'm excited to do today's live stream. I've been looking forward to it, and I know a couple of you guys have as well. So today we're just going to be exploring everything Oxford, Cambridge, specifically related to medicine. And the guest that I have on my channel, I'm really excited to introduce to you guys. And she'll probably talk about who she is, what she does, how she's been. So yeah, Magda, take it away. How are you? Who are you? And kind of what was your story to Cambridge? Was Cambridge always on the table for you?
Hi, so I'm Magda. I am just finishing off my second year at Cambridge. I've been doing all right recently, to be fair. I've got exams coming up, which is not exactly that fun. But yeah, I feel from quite a young age, which is quite like weird, I guess, I wanted to go to Cambridge. Like, it was just some random thing. Like, I didn't really even know what it was, to be fair, until I got quite a lot older. But yeah, it's kind of always been a dream, which is quite nice that like I actually got to be here. It's so surreal, but yeah, that's me.
Literally the same with me and Oxford. I guess my story is kind of different to yours because I hadn't always like thought about it until you get to like year 12 and they start mentioning UCAS and you're like, okay, crap, like I actually have to think about my university choices now. But it still feels so surreal. And Magda, you're going into your third year of medicine. Like, like how has that been so far? How have your experiences been so far? How does your second year compare to your first year?
I think I can't really pick which one was better, to be honest. I feel like second year has been, it's a lot nicer in a way because you know kind of what you're doing. In first year, I feel like you're kind of thrown in the deep end of uni and you're just trying to figure out how to do everything. Whereas in second year, like it kind of gets better, but it's also a lot more work, at least at Cambridge. So like that's not particularly fun, but yeah, it's been good.
I was going to say that is like completely reassuring to hear that by second year you start to figure out what the heck is going on, because I can't lie, like I've got to the end of first year, I've got my exams coming up as well, rip, but it feels like I don't know what I'm doing, and I've been trying so many different techniques but they don't seem to be working as effectively as I wish them to be. But I guess it does take time, and university's kind of, it's very different, and Oxbridge in particular, it's a massive step up from like doing your A-levels. So that's been exciting times. So I guess I've got second year to look forward to. And yeah, the questions have started to cook, like they're flying in so far. Oh my gosh. Welcome guys to the live stream. And Magda, for those of you who don't know, she also has a YouTube channel. You should definitely check it out. I must say, Magda, when I was preparing for my admissions to Oxford and also my UCAT in particular, I binged on your videos. They're absolutely great. So do check them out. Do check them out, guys. I'll put the link to her channel at the end of this live stream in the description bar below. So go and subscribe to Magda. And yeah, I guess we'll get started with answering the questions. So the first one that has been sent in by, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher these names. I'm so sorry. Alariza, correct me if I'm wrong, asks, is it an issue if I have good reflections but limited amount of work experience and she's applying to Cambridge? I assume she's talking about the personal statement.
I think that's actually really good. Like, that's what, when people ask for like personal statement advice, I say that like it doesn't really matter how much work experience you have as long as you can take stuff away from it. Like, if you've only done a few days but you've reflected on your experience and you have loads of things that like you've learned or you've seen or whatever, like that's so much more worthwhile, I think, than having loads of work experience but not actually reflecting on it. And that's an important thing to put in your personal statement, I guess, not just to like list it but to talk a bit more in depth about it.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I guess it's to do with like the, is it show don't tell thing that you always hear when you're like doing preparation for your personal statement. And this applies to most med schools when you're writing your personal statement. It's so it's so important that you reflect on everything that you've done. And this year in particular, where work experience placements have been very limited and a lot of them have been cancelled due to COVID, it's more important than ever. And med schools, they don't just want to see a person who's done 7, 8, 9, 10 different placements all across the world, but they'd rather someone who's done the placements but has sat down, reflected on the skills that he's seen during the placements, reflected on the concepts that he's learned, and actually taken that away and done something with the knowledge and reflections that he's picked up, if that makes sense. So yeah, don't worry about having limited work experience. I don't know about you, Magda, but on my personal statement, in the end, I only managed to mention about 2 to 3 work experiences as opposed to like the other ones that I'd done. And in interview, I didn't really speak about many of them. So it's definitely like quality over quantity.
Yeah, same with me. My work experience paragraph wasn't actually that long. And also I think unis definitely understand that it's quite hard to get work experience a lot of the time. Like if you don't know anyone who can help you out, you end up sending like 10 applications and they all get ignored. So like it really doesn't matter that much if you don't get that much work experience.
That is so true.
That's a lot of fun time.
Honestly, not fun times at all. That just takes me back to when I was like viciously writing the letters to all the GPs in my area, handing them out, waiting like for any responses and getting zero replies. It's heartbreaking, but you know what? We all go through it, and that's okay. Cool. Hopefully that's answered your questions. Guys, keep sending in your questions. I absolutely love it. Next question sent in by Ronald asks, why Oxford and why Cambridge for you, Magda? Which one of us wants to go first?
I can go first.
Go for it.
To be fair, as I mentioned, like my dad always used to say like, oh, you're going to go to Cambridge, like as a joke. But I feel like it kind of stuck with me. But also just like place-wise, I think I just prefer Cambridge as a place. Like it's a personal thing. And also I think I preferred the admissions process slightly. Ooh, like just for me.
Controversial.
It just felt a bit more like safe. I don't know.
Really? I guess we can speak about that later on in the live stream, like the differences between the admissions process. But that's quite interesting. That's like the first time I've ever heard of that. And kind of what drew you to like Cambridge as a place? Because for me, I thought it was too like small and
I like it.
You like it small?
Yeah, it's kind of like compact and like cutesy.
I get what you mean. Yeah, Oxford, because I visited both places on like summer schools, and I remember going to Trinity College in Cambridge, and this was like during the heat stroke in 2018, maybe 2017, I can't remember the year. But I remember just like looking at the grass, and I remember it being just so dry, and that was the only memory I had from Trinity College, how dry the grass was.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was just like,
maybe not then.
This place is like, and the city as well, like it was just too village-like for me. And I come from like I don't know about you, but my home city is like really, really busy, and I wanted somewhat of that in the city that I'd spend my university years in. But I mean, if Cambridge works for you, it works. I'm joking. It's a nice place. It's a nice place. I do like it. And for me, why Oxford? I guess it goes back to my summer school experiences. So I did Unique at Oxford, which is a massive summer school, which is completely free of charge. And there's loads of food. I just remember that memory from my summer schools. Loads of free food. And you meet amazing people, of course. And I did a summer school similarly in Cambridge, the one at Trinity College. And I just enjoyed my time a lot more at Oxford. I settled in a lot quicker. And for me, the admissions process at Oxford seems to be more safe in a sense. So I guess we could just go on to speak about that. Yeah, fair enough. So kind of to speak about the admissions process for prospective Cambridge or Oxford students, I guess we can go through like the basics. Just to say, we're not admissions tutors, so do take everything we say with a pinch of salt and make sure to consult the websites for the respective universities. But starting with Oxford, the way they do it is that to shortlist applicants for interview, they primarily focus on the students' BMAT scores and your GCSE scores. So it's almost like a 50-50 ratio, but then they also take into account other like contextual factors as well. Once you get to interview, because they've shortlisted so many people, it means that your chances are higher, if that makes sense. So I remember hearing this fact somewhere that, again, fact check this because it might be wrong. Once you get to the interview stage at Oxford, it's like for every offer available, 3 applicants are fighting for it. whereas I think it's a lot more people at Cambridge. And in terms of the interviews at Oxford, for me, when I went, I was interviewed at 2 colleges, and I had 2 interviews at each college, and we also get to stay over. So it was quite a bit of fun, except from the actual interview itself. It was quite nice going away to Oxford for a couple of days, meeting with people, feeling the student life. Yeah, so that's kind of like the Oxford admissions process in a nutshell. What about Cambridge?
So I feel like that BMAT GCSE thing is what scared me a lot, because I was like, the BMAT is so unpredictable that, like, I don't know. But
So
I
true.
think from what I know / think I know, it's a bit more like holistic. They kind of look at your entire application together before they decide who to invite to interview, which I kind of personally preferred than like kind of set things that they were gonna even almost like rank you on. I don't know. But I think it is harder, like you said, to actually get in post-interview. I think there's more people that they interview than offers that they can give. But at Cambridge, you're only interviewed by the college that you apply to, unlike at Oxford. So I had 2 interviews just at the college that I applied to, and they're on the same day. So I guess like staying over would have been fun, but anyway.
That's so cool. I guess like that is a massive difference, like the number of interviews you have, because you only had 2, whereas I had 4. And I don't know if they have as much of a pooling system at Cambridge, but at Oxford you get, if like for example your tutors interview you at the college you apply to, you're not good enough to get into that college because like in terms of the level of competitiveness of applicants there, they think you're not good enough for that college, but they think you're still good enough to get into Oxford. They'll throw you into a pool of applicants. Oh, someone's calling me. Why does this always happen in the middle of my live streams? Yeah, they throw you into this pool, and other tutors from different colleges can like choose to interview you. So it got to the point where some of my friends who applied to medicine, they had the four interviews from 2 colleges, and then they also had the extra interviews because they were pooled. So some of them had like up to 6 interviews, which was absolutely crazy. What about at Cambridge? It does sound brutal. Oops, I'm not really selling Oxford, am I?
They do pools for interview. I think you can get put in the pool after interview, I believe.
Okay.
And then they might, like that college, I don't know if they might ask for like an additional like written something, or like if they might invite you to interview. I'm not really too sure.
Yeah.
But at interview it's just you turn up on the day, you have your 2 interviews and you go home. Although like some colleges I think do 3, or like it depends, but I think it's a lot more chill.
That seems a lot
slightly
chiller.
a bit less stressful.
Fair enough. How long are the interviews there?
I think again it varies. Mine were both 20 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're not that bad.
Yeah, to be fair, I think this is like, again, something that we can discuss later on based on the questions that we get sent. There's like a massive fear of interviews, and I had this same fear before actually going to them. So I must admit, one of mine was like super, super scary and like ticked all the stereotypes and stuff, but the rest of them were like, I had fun in my interviews, which sounds crazy, like everyone has this like scary image of interviews, because I learned stuff in my interview. So I went in there with the knowledge that I had from my A-levels, or knowledge I had from independent study, but during the interview themselves the tutors were like teaching me stuff and stretching my knowledge and challenging me. And when I reached new stages in understanding and knowledge, like I felt like quite fulfilled. I don't know if you can relate. And when I left the interview, although I felt absolutely like brain drained and just shattered because I'd worked so hard, I actually looked back and realized I enjoyed the conversations I had with the tutors, which was quite nice.
Yeah, I think one of mine was like
Magda's like
the science one for me was, I was just traumatized by the like stupid stuff that I said. But the other one, I actually like, it feels so weird, but I actually did enjoy it. Like it was just such a chill conversation. They were so nice, which I wasn't expecting, because you hear so many horror stories about like Oxbridge interviews.
For sure.
But it was actually like so nice just talking. I don't know.
It is quite a strange one, and that's quite like interesting that you say that you had like a science interview. And I think I heard this from other Cambridge students, that you have like science clinical interviews, like set ones. Is that the case for like all interviews or just colleges at Cambridge?
I think it depends on the college, because I know some people that had like multiple science interviews, and I know some like, and what you get asked also really depends on the college. But I just had one science one and then one kind of more general one.
Oh, nice. Mine, I don't know if they typically have that structure at Oxford. I might just be completely ignorant, but in terms of my interviews, they were just a bit of everything. I do remember some being more sciencey than others and some being more clinical than others, but for the most of it was just random stuff. But yeah, cool. We kind of like went off on tangents and went off on more tangents. But yeah, let's get on to answering some more of these questions. Next one sent in. Okay, someone sent in, I've watched both of you since your GCSEs. That's so cute. Love it. PYW asks, do Cambridge start their clinical work earlier than Oxford?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think it's in 4th year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're both quite similar courses in like
what you learn. Yeah.
You would think so as well, because it's like
quite, yeah, exactly, like Oxbridge. I remember we had I don't know if this was before I started university or like during Freshers Week, we had like one of the most boring lectures about the structure of the course. Do you know the ones where they pull out the lecture presentation slides and they're like, and you're just like, oh my god, like not only is it stressful to hear about the exams that you're gonna have, like even before you started the course they're talking about exams, but it was just too complicated for me. And I remember them like telling us about like the traditions and the Latin and what BM stands for. Like, there's just a lot of Latin. But yeah, exactly as you said, I think the courses are quite similar. A question I do have for you is, how much like clinical contact do you get? Because in my first year, I had 2 clinical sessions a term, but then the last couple of sessions were cancelled because of Miss Rona. So I don't know, what's it like in Cambridge?
Actually quite impressive. I think we had we have this course that's called Preparing for Patients, which is supposed to prepare you for clinical years, and they do stuff like over the first like 3 preclinical years, but we literally did like 1 session with a patient, I think per term as well, but it was literally like an hour. So for the entire year to do like 2 hours is like, it's not great, but I guess like it's something. You then have to like write a report about it, and you had to like pass that to be able to do clinical years. So
that's
I think
like
they
really
try
similar
to put some in, but
yeah, I feel as though they're like maybe obliged to put some in, otherwise it would like the course would be just so similar to doing biochemistry or biomedicine. Yeah, I think at Oxford it's quite similar. We have a patient doctor course, and it's like the exact same, like similar to the Cambridge one. But we have the 2 sessions instead of just the 1 hour, and each one of our sessions are a bit longer as well. So we just spend like the whole afternoon at a designated GP, which is quite interesting. But then as a first year medic student, not knowing how to do anything, not knowing how to be useful in the clinics, you're just kind of like walking around like doing nothing. But for the GP that our college was assigned to, she was really, really cool, because she actually started up these sessions where we would interview patients, and it was really cool because the conditions that the patients had usually linked to the conditions that we were learning in our physiology lectures. So when we were learning about kind of cardiovascular physiology, so physiology of the heart and blood vessels, we were then going to our GPs and interviewing patients who had cardiovascular problems, which is quite interesting because you kind of knew what you were talking about. Like, you weren't completely like, yeah.
That's really cool that it's like linked up like that.
Yeah, it might have just been my GP, not gonna lie, because each college has like a separate GP that they're linked to. She was really cool. But yeah, sometimes we do wish that, I don't know about you, do you sometimes wish that you had more clinical contact, or do you like the way that the preclinical clinical split is in Oxbridge?
One of the reasons why I wanted Cambridge Med was because of the fact that like I could do preclinical before, just because like I felt like being thrown into placements from like first or second year was going to really stress me out, because I wouldn't know what I was going on about at all. But now that I'm here, I kind of sometimes like do wish that we got to do something, just because it kind of just gets a little bit boring, I guess, just doing medical sciences without like actually remembering that you're doing this to be a doctor.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like sometimes I'll be in my metabolism lectures, just sitting there like, wait, hold up, wait. I'm actually reminding myself that one day when you graduate, you're going to be a clinical doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess similarly to you, I applied to Oxford and Cambridge, not Oxford and Cambridge, Oxford, because I did like that preclinical clinical split. And I just loved like research-based stuff, and both universities have a really big emphasis on research, which has been interesting. I don't know if I still like research as much from my first experiences. But yeah, cool. Right, moving on to the next question. Gal with Love sends in, how large are your tutorials, supervisions? Am I right by saying there's fewer students in tutorials than supervisions? Oh, okay. So just to clarify things up, tutorials are like the Oxford version of the small group sessions with your tutor, whereas supervisions are the Cambridge version. I think they're essentially the same. I remember I was doing a live stream with another student from Cambridge, and she was telling me that you guys abbreviate it to supos, and we abbreviate tutorials to toots. And we were having like a debate, getting everyone in the comment section involved to say which one sounds weirder. I still think supos sounds so weird.
Like, it is quite weird. To be fair, all of the Oxbridge abbreviations are just so weird. And then you just start saying them in normal, like, speech. And then if you actually think about what you're saying, it just sounds
honestly, like, there's just so much, like, jargon and technical language, which is quite fascinating. And it makes you feel special when you know it all. For example, the terms have names. So at Oxford, it's Michaelmas for first term. Second term's called Hilary. Third term's called Trinity. At Cambridge, it's slightly different. I think the first one's called Michaelmas.
Yeah, and then we've got Lent and Easter.
Bougie. That's so bougie.
Not as fancy.
Not as fancy. But very more practical, because it actually makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, how big are your supos?
I think it varies. Sometimes I think from like 3 to 5 personally people per supervision, but I know some colleges have like 2 people sometimes, so like it does depend where you go. Generally it's small enough to the point where you can ask questions and like get them answered and stuff. Like, it's not too bad, but yeah, I think it's a similar sort of thing probably to Oxford.
Yeah, it is very, very similar. So like 3 to 5 probably bog standard size for tutorials. In my college, one of our tutors likes to keep the groups really, really small, so he typically has 2 people per tutorial group, which is crazy because if your tut partner is like ill or can't make the tutorial, then it's just you and your tutor. And one of our tutors, he's like, I don't know, he's very different in like his style of teaching, and in his tutorials you're not allowed to bring notes in or make notes in the tutorial. So the whole thing is just you talking. So like imagine you have this tutor and your tut partner doesn't show up. It's just like just you talking the whole time, not being able to make a note. Yeah, definitely crazy. But I guess the small size of the tutorials or the supervisions really allows you to feel comfortable with your tutor or supervisor, to the point that you feel like you feel comfortable asking questions regardless of how stupid you may think they are. Because like typically with like lectures, I don't know about you, but at Oxford there's like at the end of every single lecture you always get the same group of people, like the really confident group of people who are confident to go up to the lecturer and ask questions, whereas I'm never that person. Like I feel as though my question would be too stupid, or the lecturer might turn around and be like, we covered this in the lecture, weren't you listening? I mean, no, I wasn't listening, but like but in like tutorials I feel comfortable enough to ask any questions, which is really, really nice, and like the part of the tutorials that I like the most.
Yeah, same at Cambridge.
Cool. Right, next question sent in by Alariza, asks, do you have a suggestion for a student who has a wide variety of extracurriculars activity done over a long period? How can I make, oh gosh, I can't read anymore. How can it be made to fit in the personal statement?
So I'd say if you've got like loads of things, try and obviously choose ones that I guess you can relate more to medicine, and ones that you can, again, kind of reflect on more, or say that you got certain skills that are transferable to being a med student or a doctor from more than others. Because also, to be fair, some of the older ones might not be as relevant. Like, I'd say probably use the more recent ones. I think I read that somewhere when I was applying, I don't know. But yeah, I'd say you're going to have to kind of be like selective and kind of brutal with like what you can put in and what you choose to put in.
Yeah, kind of echoing on from what Magda said, actually just copying what she said. You do have to be really, really selective with your personal statement. I remember when I first started my statement and I was really struggling to find things to write about, but when you get into the flow of things, you realize that you have way too much things to write about. Like, even if you don't have the work experience, you'll realize that you've done so many courses, you've read books, you've learnt about interesting things, you like so and so from your A-level course. You'll realize that there's too much to talk about, and you definitely have to be selective and try and pick the things that not only you're most passionate about, but that you're also most confident to speak about in interview. Particularly if you're applying to Oxford and Cambridge, certain tutors or supervisors do pick out on things that you mention on your personal statement. So as like a strategic point, maybe pick things you're most confident speaking about, because it might be pulled up in interview. I remember saying to a couple of people who were asking me about like the number of books to include in your personal statement, like, even if you've read 20 books, like, you don't have to include every single one, because you're just increasing the number of books that they can ask you about an interview, and you have to reread all those books, make sure you're familiar with all those books before interview. So definitely be selective. Maybe pick the extracurriculars that relate more to medicine, as Magda says, that you can reflect on more, that relate to other parts of your personal statement, so you can link them more. But yeah, hopefully that's helped. Obviously, we're not professionals and we haven't seen your statement, so might not be able to give like the perfect advice, but yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Magda, what was like your journey in like writing your statement? Did you find it easy to start it off? And did you have to redraft it a couple of times?
Yeah, I had like 10 drafts at the end, I think.
Strong.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really change that much between the drafts, to be honest. I think it's quite hard when you're starting off, because you don't really know where to start and you don't really know what you're doing. But then, when, like, as you said, once you get into the flow of things, you realize that like you've written like 7,000 characters and you need to cut it down.
Story of my life.
So then it just, like, I think at the start it can be quite daunting, but realistically, like, I think the worst thing about writing one is then trying to like cut it down.
It's like, it's so hard to cut it, because it's like, oh my god, this is my baby, I don't want to cut it.
Yeah.
But you just have to. Sorry, I have so many stories, but I remember the first time I wrote my statement, it was a draft of like 6,000 characters, which is too long. And I remember just being like thinking that this statement was the best thing in the world. There's nothing that you could possibly change about it, because it's amazing. And I went to my school admissions person, UCAS person, I gave him my statement, and I just remember her pulling out her red pen, crossing things out, saying, this is terrible, you don't need to use this level of vocab, you don't need to be this fancy, cut this out, you've repeated just, like, honestly, it just hurt me so much, because I was like, this is my baby.
Literally.
But honestly, like, thank God she did that, otherwise my statement would have just been horrendous. So do listen to teachers, but again, take it with a pinch of salt, because sometimes sometimes teachers say like conflicting things. Just remember, it's your statement and you should always have the final say on it. Oh, I just realised I keep doing this thing where I go off on tangents. I'm so sorry. Right, let's stick to the questions. Next one sent in by Elise. Okay, we've already answered that one. H. Khan asks, what's the difference between studying medicine at Cambridge and studying medicine at Oxford?
I don't know how to answer that, because obviously I haven't been at Oxford, but I'd say, like, at least from what I can tell, it seems like it's going to be quite similar. I feel like we probably do similar modules and similar like exam styles.
What modules did you do in first year?
We did anatomy, biochemistry and physiology. And then this like ethics and stats module.
You did ethics. Oh, I think that's where it's different. So in our first year, we did organisation of the body, a bougie name for anatomy and embryology.
They all have such weird names.
Did you do embryology in your first year?
Functional architecture of the body. And I'm like, you
Functional
could just say
architecture.
anatomy.
You could literally, such a waffle, isn't it? So we had organisation of the body, biochemistry, medical genetics, and then physiology and pharmacology. And then we had medical sociology. We did a lot of pharmacology, a lot of naming drugs and stuff in our first year. And
I guess like that's a difference then. I thought it was going to be quite similar, but we did pharm this year.
Oh, did you? So in first year, you didn't like talk about any drugs at all?
Not that much, no.
Oh.
Or like if it was very like superficial, and then you get to second year and it's like, here's a list of 300 drugs.
Oh, crazy.
Have fun.
Have fun. I guess I like the fact that like Oxford is kind of easing us into it, because in first year there has been like a long list of drugs, but it hasn't been 300 drugs like to randomly learn. And they've always linked it to the modules that we're learning. So for example, when we were doing cardiovascular physiology, we also had cardiovascular pharmacology as well. So it all linked, made kind of sense. Yeah. But yeah, I feel bad. How is that getting along? How do you go around like memorizing the names of drugs? This is something I've really struggled with because they're just so abstract.
I would really love someone to tell me how to do it, because at this point I'm just hoping that something's going to stick in my head and like I'm going to see something and like some cogs are going to turn and I'm going to remember randomly. But yeah, honestly, it's quite like tough. But
another difference that I can think of, and this is from speaking to Lucy, who's the girl I was doing the other live stream with. She was telling me about how in your exams, this might just be second year, you have like for your anatomy multiple choice questions, you actually go around in the anatomy labs with like a board and you tick things off as you go around. You have to like identify things in real life, whereas our anatomy multiple choice papers, they show us images on the computer screen and then we do multiple choice that way. Yeah, that was something pretty niche but cool difference. I think I don't know which one I prefer. I think I'd prefer yours because you'd be able to see like the whole thing, the 3D anatomy, as opposed to just a 2D image. But yeah, and also like what are your exam formats like at the end of first year?
I think for all of the modules, well, like the main ones, so anatomy, biochem, and physiology, we had a multiple choice paper on the theory, and then we had a practical paper for biochemistry and physiology, but it was like written mostly, so it was either like multiple choice or I think the biochemistry one was written answers, and then essay papers for all three.
Ooh, I think that's another difference as well. You have practical exams. We don't have any practical exams.
Oh.
We get like kind of examined throughout the year. Like we have these lab books that we need to fill up and make sure it's to standard, hand them in. And if they're not up to standard, we have to redo them. But I think that's how they mostly examine like our practical skills.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, because ours were just like, I mean, the physiology one kind of made sense. It was more like practical. It wasn't even techniques though, to be honest. It was just stuff based on the practicals that we'd done. But the biochemistry one was basically like biology A-level application questions, just like make it 50 times worse. And
my gosh, that sounds so brutal.
I don't know why they did that, because it wasn't even based like on any of the practicals that we'd done. So yeah,
that sounds so brutal. But I guess it's a good way of examining students, because I find that like at Oxford in our practical classes, like half of us won't understand what's going on and we'll just like copy the answers off the other half who do. So like in essence, we can just get through like all the practical skills without having understood anything at all. But yeah, that's interesting. If we think of any other differences, like we'll just like feel free to like just shout them out in the middle of the live. But they are very similar courses, I guess. And I remember hearing this being said that if you're kind of good enough, this is more on the admission side, if you're good enough to get into Cambridge for any course, you're probably good enough to get into Oxford. And that just kind of goes to show how similar the admissions processes are, but also how similar the courses are in terms of difficulty and content, which is cool. Next question sent in by PYW asks, what medical speciality interests you as of now?
I actually have no idea. I was thinking like I thought neurology, but then now I'm just really confused when I'm revising it, so I'm like, maybe not.
Maybe not.
I don't know. Cardio seems interesting, and like pediatrics maybe.
I'm the exact same as you. I don't know. Like in first year we had a series of like lectures where people from different specialties come in and present their speciality. I remember at the end of every single one I'd be like, that one. That's the one for me. Then the next person would come in a week later and I'd be like, no, hold that thought. That one. That's the specialty for me. And I don't know. I guess we just have to wait till our clinical years, because then we'll be able to actually see what goes down in all these specialties. But yeah, I don't know.
Just theoretically it changes like every month.
Exactly. Do you think you'd ever be interested in surgery?
Oh no, that's one thing that I was like, no. I think like it would be a real disservice to the patients if I was the surgeon.
Why did you say that?
Even like my hand-eye coordination just by itself just wouldn't go well. And I think just like the pressure of having like someone's life in your hands.
Yeah, pretty intense.
I don't know.
I think what kind of throws me off surgery more is the idea that although you're going to be like with your surgical team and colleagues, it's the fact that you could essentially stay in one room for like these surgeries go up to like 6-8 hours just doing the same thing, not able to move because like you just can't move because you're operating on the patient. But I don't know.
I'd never thought of that. That's another one to add to the list.
Another reason. But yeah. I don't know if I've completely written it off, but I don't know. Running around the hospital is more my scene, you know?
Yeah. Frantic.
Cool. Next question sent in by... Oh, this is a really, really good one. Can you talk about prosections versus dissections at Oxbridge? And this was sent in by Tyra P. That's another difference. Oh my gosh. You guys do dissections.
Really?
We do prosections, as far as I know. Yeah.
In first we had to dissect it ourselves, which didn't always go down very well, but yeah, I think for our anatomy in first year, because it's basically everything except for the head and neck, we would do it ourselves, and then in second year when we did head and neck, it was prosections, because I feel like we would fully butcher trying to dissect that, but interesting. I thought you did dissections as well.
See, the thing is, I thought we did dissections as well until I turned up to our first anatomy class and it was already all like cut up for us. I guess let me just another story. Basically, our first anatomy class, the dissection room, DR demonstration room, was bones, and I think the reason why they started with bones is because it's less gruesome and gory in comparison to muscles and like intestines, like seeing intestines. And a couple of people fainted like in our anatomy class just about bones, and these bones look like the artificial bones that you see the skeleton, and they fainted at that. So I think it's a good idea that maybe we didn't do dissections, because it would have been a whole lot worse, but I guess it would definitely help. What's it like doing dissections?
Thrown into it though.
What's the smell like?
It's so nice you got to look at bones on the first day.
What was your first anatomy class like?
Must have been like the first day of classes ever. We got taken into the room just to have a look, and then the next day we had to dissect the hand, I'm pretty sure. And it was just this is a bit too quick for me. just
a little bit too quick, Cambridge. Just a little bit.
I think they chose to do the hand and the upper arm, well, the arm limb, I don't know, first, because it was it's probably the least dodgy bit, but still it just wasn't. I feel like they didn't really prepare us very well.
Not to get too much into the details, but I'm super interested, and I'm sure a lot of people in the comment section are as well. But was it just a hand with all the skin on, and you had to, or was it already pre-sliced?
It was a donor, so
okay.
And it had
Oh, cool. Not cool, but cool.
It's not cool. I don't know, it's really cool that we get the opportunity to do it, obviously, because but it's quite scary, especially the first time that you go in and do it.
That is definitely too quick, especially when you've just kind of moved on from A-levels, where the most gory thing you've dissected is probably what did I say, like, you know, pig hearts that you buy from Asda.
Sheep heart.
Sheep heart that you buy from Asda, and you just move on to like cadavers. It's it's a bit much. But I guess if you're interested in surgery, particularly in like your clinical years, I guess it will come into handy having those skills already. I'm not sure if.
Didn't have to. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, carry on.
I was just gonna say you don't have to really actually do anything if you don't want to. So like if you don't want to do the dissection, like someone else on your table will do it. Like you don't have to get involved, which is like nice and reassuring because I know that like probably a lot of people would kind of be a bit
especially after like 2 days into university.
Yeah.
In our we call them like demonstration rooms, and this is where they have the pro sections. We have like training doctors, so they're junior doctors who are going down the surgical specialty route, so they're training surgeons, and they help us with our anatomy, and it can be pretty intense because I remember the first two demonstration rooms, we had the bones, and then the next week it was muscles, and they were quizzing us on all the different parts of the bones, and they were going around, we had groups of around 6 to 7 students, they were going around asking each one of us what are the different parts of the humerus or different parts of, and it was just so intense, and especially with the muscle anatomy class, all the muscles look the same at first. Like, I mean, they still do look the same to me, but it was so intense because like half of us didn't even know the answers, and I don't know.
Actually,
but I don't know what's it like
at Cambridge. Like,
is it?
We had a lot of demonstrators who were supposed to help, and like it was so funny because they were always like the favorite demonstrators, like the ones who would just like explain, like who were really nice and would explain stuff, and then there were those people who would come around and would like ask you questions.
What is this part?
Most of us never knew the answer. So we just stood there in silence and like guessed random words.
Do you know what the worst thing is? When you're in a group of people who do know what they're talking about, because they'll go around and then they'll be like, epicondyle, humerus, then they'll get to you and you'll be like, epicondyle? No, that's already been said, Fran. But it's fun. It's an
experience.
Yeah, it's an experience. It's an experience. And I know other med schools don't kind of have like the privilege of being able to do prosections and dissections. I think, is it Glasgow or Edinburgh University? They have like virtual anatomy. So they have like, I can't remember the technical word for it. Projectors. So they project the anatomy there and you're able to see like a virtual dissection or prosection, which is very different. But nice. Hopefully that's educated you all about like different prosections and dissections. And yeah, next question sent in by James San asked, does your uni focus more? Okay, similar question. Nagami asks, what are you intercalating in and why? I think this is a question for you, Magda, because I'm not yet at that stage.
I'm doing pathology. I honestly don't know. To be fair, like it's one of the things that I was more interested in this year. And when I first went to uni and like in first year when I had a look at the options, that was one of the things that I thought like, oh, I could do that maybe. I was picking between neuro and psychology and pathology, and I just thought that I could maybe do better in that just because I kind of understand it a bit more. But there's like a wide range of options to choose from, so yeah. And
kind of just to let everyone know what like intercalation is for those of you who might not know. So at med schools, correct me if I'm wrong, but you typically have, some med schools give you the option to do an intercalation year, whereas Oxford and Cambridge is more mandatory. You basically take a year out and you get to do research on essentially anything that you're interested in. What kind of format do they take at Cambridge? Like, do you spend years like time in the lab? Do you do independent research?
So it depends so you can either do a research project or a dissertation. So if you're doing a research project, you'll just do that subject that you chose, and you're like in a lab or doing like research, I guess, like probably with people if you're doing something like psychology. And then you have your lectures on the side. And then if you're doing a dissertation, you get to choose a minor subject as well. And you can do your dissertation in either your major or minor subject. And that's like, you just do your own research pretty much from like the internet and books and stuff.
Fun times. And I read somewhere that like Cambridge offer a lot more courses and options for the intercalation, whereas I think Oxford is a little bit more limited. Not entirely sure. I do need to research that because I think we get to select ours maybe this term or next term, like what kind of research projects we have to do. And Magda, did you have to apply to them? And was it like competitive to get like the most sought after intercalation courses?
So we apply, I think, either in Lent term or Easter term of second year. I think it's Lent, probably. I can't actually remember. Ours was messed up anyway because of COVID. But so you get to choose like 3 options for what you want to do, and you rank them. And then if they're oversubscribed, like technically you can get, like if you don't get your first option, you can get your second option or your third option. But I think about a quarter of students just don't get allocated in the first round. And then there's a second one where you get told what your ranking is, and then you get to like revise your options based on like how likely you think it is that you're going to be able to get onto it. Normally it's done from second year grades, but ours were different because we don't get second year grades. But I didn't get pathology on my first. So pathology was my first choice, but I didn't get it in the first round because that biochemistry practical paper really screwed me.
Biochemistry practical paper.
Literally, they chose our first 2, like our best 2 modules, and then they also used for like ranking us that biochemistry paper because it's like one of those papers where it really shows like separates out like the average students from like the really good students.
It must be a really hard paper then.
Yeah, so that wasn't fun, but you can still get onto what you want because I ended up getting it anyway.
Pathology.
So
it's really cool. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't even know. To be fair, I'm just focusing on like it's honestly such a mess. It's crazy. But yeah, exciting times to look forward to. And I've heard like third year, your intercalation year tends to be a little less intense because you don't have to go to like 4 lectures a day and you have a lot more time to do other things. So are you gonna like invest your time more into like societies or pursuing extracurriculars during this year?
Yeah, I like that's what I was like. I think everyone looks forward to it because it's supposed to be like more chill, especially like depending on what you choose. I think like it's all again really messed up because of COVID. Like I don't know what it's gonna look like now. And I was gonna just like do loads more rowing and stuff, but I don't really know how that's gonna work either because of like social distancing and stuff. So yeah.
It's all
it's
like
a shame.
It's all really
supposed to be like the best year.
Oh, that's like that reminds me of like because we went into lockdown just before our 3rd term of university. We call it Trinity. You guys call it Easter. Yeah. And like everyone was looking forward to Easter Trinity term because it's the fun term. You have all like the balls as well. The rowing happens as well, and then Miss Rona was just like the sun.
It's so pretty. Like I don't know about Oxford, but Cambridge is so pretty in the summer. Like, but no.
Miss Rona was like, no, not today, honey, not today. But excited to go back to university next month. I don't know when you guys start. We start in like October.
Yeah, same.
Cool. Next question, because I'm gonna go on for ages. Sent in by Tyra P. Could you talk about the differences between? Oh, good one. Talk about the differences between the 2 towns, accommodation, etc. As this year they did not have open days.
So like, I mean, personally, I said I prefer Cambridge, but like, it's the smaller town. I don't know. I've never actually been to Oxford.
Really? See, that was your mistake. No. That was your mistake. If you would have came to Oxford, you would have fallen in love. No, I'm joking.
Accommodation wise, again, like it really varies between colleges. I think for the most part, it's quite like traditional. What you kind of think of when you think of Cambridge, Oxford, like old buildings.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, both of my rooms have been really nice. Like I don't know about you, it's quite expensive.
It is,
but
quite pricey.
It's nice.
What was your rent like, say per term in your first year? Like what's like standard rent at Cambridge?
I think for our college, the average was probably like 1,400. I want to say, like, don't quote me, but per term.
Yeah, I think that was mine as well. I think the average Yeah, that's very similar to Oxford. And it is quite expensive when you like calculate how much it costs per week. But they try
Yeah.
to make it seem cheaper by saying, because you're not actually living in Oxford all the terms and you actually move out over the holidays, it comes out
Yeah.
as cheaper overall. But it's still really expensive per week.
It's really expensive.
Yeah, and in terms of Oxford accommodation, again, it varies between the different colleges. At my college, Brasenose, I was met with a massive shock when I realised that first year students didn't have kitchens, and instead we have these kitchenettes.
Oh no.
We have kitchenettes, and let me tell you what our kitchenettes look like. So on my staircase, I remember I visited my accommodation beforehand, and the porter was just showing us around. The porter's like the receptionist, the guy everyone goes to in college if you ever need any help. And he was showing me around to my room, toilet, all that stuff, and I was just like, oh, so where's the kitchen? And he showed me a mini fridge and a microwave on top, and he said, here's your kitchen. I've never been so devastated in my life. No, honestly, I was first of all, there wasn't even a I had to No. I had to bring my own toaster and I had to bring my own kettle. But to be fair, I should actually know. Like, they didn't even tell us about this. But it's definitely variable because my friends from other colleges, they had like the most amazing accommodation, en suites, kitchens, and some of my friends from Brasenose had like really massive rooms. Definitely varies, but do research your accommodation beforehand so you don't end up in my situation. In terms of the two towns, if you could summarize the Cambridge vibe, like the town, like nightlife, things to do in the city, what would it be?
I would say, I don't know, like it's literally like a student town, or that's what it feels like to me. Like there's just because it's so small and there are so many colleges and so many students, it just feels like really like nice and tight knit. I don't know.
Ooh.
And especially on like the going out scene as well, one thing that I've noticed is it actually feels like really safe because it's so small and at least for me, nothing's ever really that far away. Like walking around at night doesn't seem as dodgy, whereas like I have friends, I don't know about Oxford, but at other unis like in London for example, and the whole like you have to get an Uber at night and it's like scary and dodgy. I don't know. I really like Cambridge for that reason. Yeah,
like really, really similar to Oxford in the sense that especially like the city centre, that's where all the colleges are, except from a few which are pretty far out. But like in terms of like walking around at like 2 a.m, I've never felt safer like at Oxford than I have like in my home city, and it's just so strange because as you say, it does feel like the students just own that city, the town. And because like you'll walk around at 2 a.m and you'll see like a group of other students walking around, and it's just, especially because I live central Oxford, as central as it gets, it's very well lit as well, so you always feel safe. And the porters, there's always a night porter that is available, so if you ever have any problems, difficulties, you know that there's a member of staff that is like available and ready to help you. And have I taken a taxi in Oxford? I think I've taken one, but that was from like the sports centre, but I've never taken Uber. Like Uber, who's she? Like no. But in terms of very similar. But I must say, when I did visit Cambridge, the colleges were really far apart from each other.
Yeah. So some are definitely further than others, like in Oxford. But I think for the most part, like everything's pretty much in walking distance mostly, so like it's okay.
I
can't really
like
complain.
The lecture theatre from like your college?
Pardon? My lectures?
Yeah.
From my college, it's like you could get there in like 10 minutes, like a brisk walk. So it's really like it's really convenient.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, definitely the brisk walk. I've done a couple of them in my time.
I'm so like every time I'm in Cambridge, I just get so used to just paddle walking everywhere.
Honestly,
it's just the mode of transport.
Honestly. Reason being is because you're probably most likely running late to somewhere, so you have to power up. Next question sent in by I'm sorry, I really don't want to butcher these names, so I'm just gonna read the question. Sanak asks, does printed CV or portfolio is it required to give when you're applying for jobs, or the information we give in the NHS profile is enough. So I'm assuming she means like once we graduate, when we're applying for like an FY1 post, do we need to submit a CV? This is actually something I'm not aware of.
No idea.
Yeah, neither.
I probably should, but I don't know.
To be honest, we do have a couple more years in med school. Like you have 3 years, I have 4 years. Like we've got time to figure this all out.
It's fine.
But yeah, don't know. I guess I can refer you to like going onto the NHS website or just typing it into Google. Maybe they're a lot more help than us on here. Next question sent in by Lalu asks, when can you apply to uni if you want a gap year in first or second year of A-levels? So the way it works is that everyone applies to university in their second year of sixth form. So when you're going from year 12 to year 13, if you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, veterinary sciences, you apply October the 15th of your year 13 year. If you want to apply to anything else, you apply January of that year. If you want to take a gap year and you want to apply alongside everyone else, you can apply in that year, but just tick the box for deferred entry, which tells the university that you want to apply that year. You want to send off your personal statement, have an interview if your university interviews, but you don't want to start the next academic year but 2 years later. But I'm also aware of people who have just not applied in year 13 and have decided to take a gap year, and then when they are ready to apply, they apply. I think there's a lot of flexibility in the sense that you can apply. Is there an age limit to applying to UCAS? I think you can. I don't think there's like a maximum age.
Whenever.
I think you can apply over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's how the deferred entry works. But again, for the best top tip information, check out the UCAS website. They probably have like more up to date and reliable information. Right, last couple of questions because we're approaching the 1 hour mark. Okay, this one sent in by Madeline asks, I've heard Cambridge lets you shadow pregnant women in later years. Does Oxford do the same or similar? I don't know about Oxford. Oh gosh. sounds so useless right now, but I genuinely don't know. Is this true about Cambridge?
Yeah, so that's like part of the Preparing for Patients course. So in third year, alongside your intercalation, you would still do like the last bit of Preparing for Patients. So I think it's for like continuity of care. You get to shadow a pregnant lady, and I think it's like 4 visits that you get. So like you can see how it progresses. Yeah.
How does that work? So you go alongside yeah. Do you go like with a GP to the patient's house, or like whenever the patient goes into hospital?
No idea. I guess it might be at their house, because that's what we did in first year. We had one visit like in the GP surgery and then one home visit. Oh, nice. So yeah.
Oh, we didn't have any of that. That sounds really cool. Hopefully we do. But cool. Right, next question sent in. Also by Madeline asks, also with the difference in third year degree, which one do you like? Because I'd love to study something like medical sociology, but Oxford is very scientific. So I think she's talking about like the intercalation year. I don't think there's a major difference between it. I think it's very similar, Oxford, Cambridge. Oh my gosh.
You definitely can do like sociology degrees. Like quite a few of the medics at my college are doing more sociological, like not really sciencey stuff. So you can definitely do it.
I think that's similar at Oxford. Not entirely sure again. But yeah, hopefully it is. Oh no, all my answers have just been like, I don't know. Go to this website.
There is actually so much that I don't know, and it's so bad because like I go to the uni, but especially about intercalation, I was so confused until like probably a month before actually we had to apply, and then I was like learning new things about it, and I was like, this is fun.
Okay. To be fair, I'm learning so much from you in this live stream as well. I might as well be one of like the viewers. Next question sent in by Palu asks, did you get selected for undergrad degrees or the full 6 to 8 year degree? Please help, I'm really new to the UK and this system. Okay, so I think I haven't ever heard of an undergrad medicine degree which is 8 years long. I think the maximum, as far as I'm aware, is 6 years, and Oxford, Cambridge are some of the universities that do the 6-year course. At Oxford, we graduate after 3 years. We graduate with a degree in medical sciences. After 6 years, I believe we graduate with the BMBCH degree, which stands for Baccalaureate in Medicine and the Baccalaureate in Surgery, or something like that. Not entirely sure. I think that's the same at Cambridge. Again, please Google it, please. I wish I could help. But yeah, both me and Magda, we applied to the undergrad degree, and we're currently, Magda's going to her 3rd year of the undergrad degree at Cambridge. I'm going into my 2nd year of the undergrad degree at Oxford. But there's also the option to do an undergrad degree which is related to medicine, so biochemistry, biomedicine, biology, and then apply to post-grad entry medicine, which is also an option. Yeah, hopefully that's helped. So sorry I don't know anymore. Next question sent in by David asks, what are your biggest tips for the first year of university and putting yourself in the best position to succeed in your course and graduate with a first class? This is the question for you, Magda, because I know that you got a first class degree from watching your videos. Congratulations.
I actually didn't. I got a 2-1. I was about to say, like, I can't speak.
Oh no, wait, did you get like a first in one of your modules? Because I remember watching your video.
I nearly got a first in one of my modules.
Oh, okay.
I was like 0.7% off a first.
To me, in my heart, that is a first class degree. And getting a 2-1 is so amazing because at this point, I'm trying to pass. It's so difficult.
It's such like a reset, I think, from A-level to uni. Because at A-level, you're like, oh, I want to do the best that I possibly can. Like, I want to get an A star. But then at uni, I'm literally just like, if I pass this, I will be so happy.
Honestly, like same here. I remember coming home, and this was after like 2nd term, and before the whole lockdown situation happened, we had exams, collections we call them at Oxford, mock exams to look forward to. And I remember just talking to my mum, and my mum was like, so how are you doing? Because she's like typical African mum. So how are you doing? Are you going to get A star? I had to explain to my mum the whole grading situation at university, like, you know, first class, 2-1, all that kind of stuff. And then I explained to her that like at this point I'm like I just want to pass, and she couldn't understand it because like my attitude at A-level was that I was aiming for top possible grades, aiming for 100%. At this point I'm literally aiming for 60%. That would be godsend. 60%, 65%, a miracle. 70%
is literally a miracle.
Like, honestly. And I think the nice thing about medicine is that, like, although you want to do your best and you want to come out with, like, the best possible degree classification, at the end of the day, all you need to do is pass your modules, get through your degree, and you graduate as a doctor, and you can start medicine. I guess it's helpful if you want to go into research. That's when I guess it's better if you graduate with higher classifications. But advice for getting a first, I mean, I wasn't on track for a first. I was probably on track for a low 2-1 or a pass at this point. But I guess I can give things things that you shouldn't do, not what to do, because
I'm really good at that.
I'm like amazing at doing that. But yeah, Magda, starting with you, like what would your top tip or top not tip be?
I think do things as you go along, like really try, because like you'll never feel on top of everything. That's just like a given. I feel like you just accept that and move on at uni. But if you just keep on top of your notes, especially, and just go over even just really briefly the lecture after you've done the lecture, it's so helpful, because I still don't do this, and then it comes to exams and I'm like, oh well, now I have to make all my notes, then revise from all my notes. So yeah, it's just, I think it's quite hard to kind of force yourself sometimes to stay on top of it, especially because you have essays to do like weekly and stuff, but do as much as you can, I think, without also don't pressure yourself that much, because especially in first year, like, you're going to have to learn how to do everything. It's so different from A-level in that, like, you revise so differently as well. So it's okay if, like, you kind of mess up along the way.
100%. I definitely, like, was the same as you in the sense that I didn't stay on top of things to revise during the year. So it got to whenever I'd have, like, my exam season and I'd realise, okay, so I actually have to make the revision material and actually learn from this revision material. And I have 2 weeks to learn 2 months worth of content. So staying on top of things is I highly recommend it, because in a couple of weeks I have my first year exams, and I've actually realized that if I would have made flashcards throughout the year, I wouldn't have found myself in this position. So definitely try and work out what your best revision method is as soon as possible. Obviously it's going to change as time goes on and you realize how you work best, but for a lot of students, active recall, flashcards such as Anki, what else is Quizlet, I use Anki, is really, really good, because for medicine it's less so about how much you know things, but rather about what you know. You need to know the facts, you need to know how many blood cells are in the body, you need to know like the names of drugs, and things like flashcards work really, really well. In terms of getting a first class degree, if you know the answer, or if you find out the answer, please let me know. But I do have this one friend in my college who's super, super smart, on top of things, and probably would have got a first class degree if we had our exams this year. And his method was, actually I don't even know what I was supposed to say. He used to work a lot, but again he used to stay on top of all the things. So at the end of every single term he would make a massive summary of notes covering everything that he learned over the term, and he would do that and he would make the revision material then. So I guess that just goes to show the power of staying on top of things.
Yeah. But also I think like you know a lot more than you think you do, which is something that I realized in first year, because I genuinely thought I was absolutely going to fail everything. But you actually learn so much along the way. So for biochemistry, which was the module I did best in last year, I don't think I did well because I'd necessarily like done loads and loads of revision for it compared to the other modules. But throughout the year, our supervisor for biochemistry was the most kind of like scary, I guess, or like he'd been supervising for like 30 years, and he had like the same supervision structure for like forever, and he set the same essays. And I think like as annoying as the essays were to write, for example, if you actually like did them and thought about them, it just meant that when I came to revise, things just went in so much easier, because you'd already kind of processed it in your essays and processed it in your head. So yeah, I guess actually do your essays well as well, because it might actually end up helping. Are
they not mandatory at Cambridge?
They are, but some supervisors, like at Clare, which is my college, it's so relaxed in the sense that some colleges would have like 3 to 4 essays per week. We would have like 1 to 2, and like one of our supervisors just kind of made all of them very optional, so no one actually did them. But I kind of wish I had, because they actually would have probably helped.
That's so crazy. At my college, like I don't know if they can ever make things mandatory that isn't like set by the department, the university department. Yeah. But our tutors definitely made us feel like, well, one of my tutors definitely made us feel like it was mandatory, because if you didn't submit it on time,
couldn't turn up without your essay, without like a really good excuse.
A really good excuse. Like honestly, it felt like we were back in school. But my other tutor was more like relaxed, and he made them optional. But the thing is, with making things optional, because of the collegiate system, there's like 6-7 of you medics. I don't know about in Clare's college, but if the other 6 do the essay, then you can't not do it, because you'll stand out. Do you know what I mean? And like the people in my college would always do the optional work, so it was never optional. I just had to do it.
I think that's the good thing about like all of the medics at Clare are generally also very chill, and none of us actually wanted to do them, so we all just didn't do them. Which like you can't like get angry at all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, Magda, it's a 1 hour 10 that we've been talking for. There are 2 more questions that I'd really like us to answer. I know that we've gone over the 1 hour mark, but should we quickly whiz through them?
Yep.
Cool. Right, the first one, I think this is quite an interesting one. Who are your favourite YouTubers? Kind of off topic, but would love to know. I actually have to think about this one. I should have thought about it in the time that you were speaking.
I watch so many different YouTubers though. Like, I don't know, StudyTube wise, obviously like pretty much all like the basic ones. Eve, Jade.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
For me, like my study tubers would definitely, like my favourite ones would definitely be like Ibs and V, Kativu.
I love Ibs.
This guy is absolutely hilarious.
I remember before I ever went to Cambridge, and I would watch him like dancing on the grass, and it was honestly
intros, like, oh, they were just so good. Like, bring them your seasoning. And now that I'm at Oxford and I realise how, like, overprotective college is of their grass. Like, if you stand on our grass, you'll get killed. Like, Ibs Mo, like, this guy was brave in the name of, like, YouTube intros. I love it. I love the energy. But yeah, next question sent in, and I think this is a really important one. Do you need a lot of A stars in GCSEs to get into Cambridge and Oxford?
I don't think so. I think, like, as long as you meet the entry requirements, you can definitely get in. And it's also, at least at Cambridge, they don't necessarily specify what they look at. So, like, they look at everything. So even if your GCSEs aren't as good, they'll look at your BMAT and your personal statement and that additional questionnaire form that you have to fill in as well.
Have that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so it doesn't really matter that much as long as you meet, like, the grade requirements. It's fine.
Yeah, at Cambridge, Oxford, sorry. At Oxford, I guess, because they do look at your GCSEs and your BMAT scores to shortlist interviews, they do put a little bit more weighting on it when it comes to the admissions process. But, like, I remember just getting loads of messages from students who were asking, like, I've got so-and-so at GCSE, I've got so-and-so A stars, A's, B's, would this be good enough to get into Oxford? And I think it's important to say that there isn't, like, a standard requirement for your GCSE grades. The only requirements that they put out are for your A-level grades. Everything else is relative to how everyone else performs, and they'll take everything contextually. So I guess if you had good reason for not achieving as good of GCSEs as you think you could have, they'll take that into account, and you don't actually need all A stars or 50,000 A stars to get into both Cambridge and Oxford. I know that because some of my friends who didn't do, like, all A star grade, like, stuff at GCSE are studying with me at Oxford and are doing really, really well. And yeah, it's so important to realise the application process is holistic. You've got GCSEs, you've got your is it FAQ at Cambridge, supplementary question, so extra. No, I'm sorry.
It is. It really is. I was just like, why do I have to write more personal things again? It's more things.
Isn't it just like a reference? Isn't it just like teacher's reference, but you're writing?
No, it was like, I think it was more stuff about you. And, like, I think the main thing that I can remember, because I can't really remember what I wrote in that, is that they asked you for topics that you'd covered in each subject, like, so that they knew for interview. Although I know that for, like, a lot of people, they just didn't look at that anyway, because my friend, for example, didn't do physics, but she got asked physics questions in the interview. So, like,
brutal.
I don't know what the point is of the questionnaire, but
brutal. But yeah, I mean, kind of goes to show how many different elements of the application process there is. So never be put off because you don't think you have the stereotypical Oxbridge GCSE portfolio. Like, you don't need all A stars to get in. But yeah, we've reached the end of our live stream. There are a couple more questions, but we've already been going for an hour, 12 minutes. But just before we end, I'd just like to say massive thank you to Magda for coming on my channel. You're amazing. And no worries. Honestly, my privilege, and so many people in the comment section have been, like, just rooting for you. Everyone's saying, like, this is an amazing collaboration, that they've watched your channel. So yeah, this has been like a privilege to have you on my channel.
Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you to everyone in the comment section as well. Everyone watching this live stream, thank you for coming back and hearing my waffle once again. And yeah, before we end, just like to say that if anyone has any questions that we haven't answered or haven't answered properly, feel free to message me or Magda if you like. I'll put our details down below in the description bar so you can contact us. And yeah, with that said, I guess we'll end this live stream here, and yeah, just have a wonderful rest to your Saturday. Have the best weekend as well. See you guys in the next live stream. Bye.
Bye.